Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm glad to be with you today. Here we are in the middle of the week, and I hope you've seen God do some neat things in your life this week. And if you haven't, well, you still got several more days for the week's over. So today I'd like to continue our talk about the kingdom of God, and I'd like to share a story, a passage from Matthew chapter 19 and verses 13 to 15. Here's what it says. One day, some parents brought their children to Jesus so he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children." And he placed his hands on their heads and blessed them before he left. Well, if you can see this scene in the picture on your mind, you see Jesus doing his thing. I mean, he just he just blessed people and healed them and touched them and spoke to them. He was a people's person, if there ever was one. I suppose in many ways he defines the word charisma because people just wanted to be around him. And it says that some parents came along. Now, we don't know what they were doing. We don't know how far they came. We don't even know if they were part of the crowd who was already there. All we know is that some parents with kids came by, and they didn't want anything for themselves. The passage here says that they brought in the kids to Jesus so he could lay his hands on the kids and bless them and pray for them. They weren't selfish. They weren't trying to get to the head of the line. They just wanted something good for their kids. And perhaps you can identify with that. Many of us can, especially when we're talking about little kids. Now, let's just change it to grandkids. We just want something good for the grandkids. We want them to have a pleasant experience or a memory that they can keep in their heads that will be there for a long time. We just want something good for them. And that's what these parents wanted. There's no indication that they wanted anything else. But the disciples, now think about this. Here are these guys who have spent several years with Jesus already. They ought to have known that Jesus makes time for just about everybody. But it says that they scolded the parents for bothering Jesus. Now, if there was ever a contrast in attitudes, it's right here. It's the attitude of the disciples versus the attitude of the parents. I'm sure had the parents thought they were bothering Jesus, they wouldn't have gone to him. But the disciples were so intense on what they thought should happen, even though Jesus had messed with their minds many, many times, they were still focused on what they wanted. And so they scolded the parents. How dare you bring these kids here? You're bothering Jesus. Well, how were they bothering him? The whole conversation between these parents and the disciples just doesn't make any sense. Nobody implied anything that was a bother, that was an ask for something huge that would have been different from what Jesus had done. But we see here a contrast between the disciples and the children. Now, the parents are out of this part of the conversation, And let's see how Jesus responded. Let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God, they're used interchangeably, belongs to those who are like these children. In saying this, Jesus essentially rebuked his disciples by saying, your selfish agenda is wrong. It's not what I'm about. You trying to dictate what I do misses the point. And I can only guess. I've never been rebuked by Jesus. Now, I've had God speak to me and tell me he didn't like what I was doing, and I felt really badly about that. Or he uses my conscience to tell me that, oh, that was wrong. And that really bothers me. But to be rebuked by the man himself, face to face, oh boy, that had to have been something else. And he rebukes them by saying, don't keep these little kids away, because the kingdom of God belongs to those who are like them. Meaning, okay, here you go. Meaning, it doesn't belong to people like you being the disciples. And it says he placed his hands on their kids and he blessed them, and then he moved on. So what did he mean? The kingdom of God belongs to those who are like them, that is, the children, not to the disciples who'd spent all those months walking around with him. Well, he's not saying that the disciples are no longer important. He's trying to get to their understanding of what the kingdom is. Now, what's the difference? Well, it's really pretty simple. It's complicated, but it's really pretty simple. Children aren't very skeptical of things. Children trust. Now, think about it. You can play the same game to a little child over and over, and they'll laugh every time. They don't think you're trying to make fun of them. They don't think you're trying to pull something over them. They're just trusting you. Now, maybe you lose their trust later on, but that's another story. Children have an innate ability to believe and to trust and to be in awe. Wow. When we get to be adults, well, we overthink things. We make them complicated when they're not supposed to be. We make the kingdom of God complicated. And it's real simple. What do children do? They live a life thinking of others, being joyful and trusting and loving. That's what the kingdom of God is about. And I hope that you know that that's the kingdom for you too. I invite you to think about it. Hope you have a wonderful day. If you have a prayer concern or a need, please let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow. God bless you.